After Monday's episode on Tennessee's new DUI law, I got a flood of messages from subscribers. People sharing their concerns, their experiences, their outrage at what this law actually means for ordinary citizens. And one comment in particular from a YouTube subscriber, Pokerface6773, raised a point so critical that I had to do this follow-up episode immediately. Because here's what we didn't fully explore last time. This law doesn't just target drunk drivers, it targets everyone. Anyone taking prescription medication, anyone with anxiety medicine in their system, anyone on pain medication, sleep aids, antidepressants, ADHD medication, the list goes on. These medications show up on drug tests, and under Tennessee's new law, you can be charged with DUI, even if you're taking the medications exactly as prescribed. Even if you're not impaired, even if you haven't done anything wrong. Let me paint you a picture. You're out shopping with your family. Maybe you're headed home from the grocery store and you're driving normal, you're following all the traffic laws, you're completely sober. But you take anxiety medication. Your doctor prescribed it, you take it as directed, it helps you function. You get pulled over. Maybe a broken tail light. Maybe the officer thinks you're following too close. Or maybe it's no reason at all other than they're running plates and yours came up for something minor. The officer decides that he suspects impairment. Maybe you seem nervous, which, hey, most people are nervous when they get pulled over by the police. They ask you to submit to testing. You agree because you haven't done anything wrong, or maybe you refuse, and then they get a warrant and they forcibly extract your blood, like we talked about on Monday. The test comes back positive for benzodiazepines because you're on prescribed anxiety medication. Now you're charged with DUI. You have to go to jail, you have to post bail, you have to hire an attorney, you probably lose your job because you missed work, and now you have a DUI charge on your record. And even if you eventually beat the charge, even if you prove that the medication was prescribed and you weren't actually impaired, the damage is done. You've got an arrest on your record. You've got legal fees in the tens of thousands. You've lost income. Maybe you've lost your job entirely. And good luck getting a new one with a DUI arrest showing up on background checks. Oh, they say there's laws against discrimination in hiring. That's bullshit, and we all know it. Employers see that charge and move on to the next candidate. They don't care if it was dismissed. They don't care if it was prescription medication. They see DUI and you're done. This law doesn't protect anyone. It doesn't make roads safer. It doesn't target actual impaired drivers. What it does is create a revenue stream for the state and local municipalities while destroying the lives of ordinary people who haven't done anything wrong. And we're going to break down exactly how this money grab works, who's responsible for it, and what we need to do to stop it before more innocent people have their lives ruined.
Courage, compassion, faith, freedom, truth. Welcome to Courage in the Darkness with your host, Philip Roberts. It's time to wake in America.
Let's talk about what actually happens when prescription medications interact with Tennessee's new DUI law. Because this is where rubber meets the road for regular people who think that they're safe because they're not drinking and driving. Tennessee law defines DUI as operating a vehicle while under the influence of any intoxicant, marijuana, controlled substance, or drug. Notice that language. Any drug. That includes prescription medications. Legally prescribed, properly taken. Doctor approved medications can and will be used to charge you with DUI if they showed up in your blood test. The most common culprits are benzodiazepines like Xanax, Valium, Ativan, and Klonopin. These are prescribed for anxiety disorders, panic attacks, insomnia. Millions of Americans take these medications daily. They're legal. They're FDA approved. Doctors prescribe them because they work. But they show up on drug tests. And under Tennessee's law, the presence of these substances in your system can be used as evidence of impairment, even if you're not actually impaired. Opioid pain medications are another huge category. Oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, fentanyl patches for chronic pain. People with back injuries, post-surgery recovery, chronic pain conditions, they're all taking medications that'll flag drug tests. Amphetamines, prescribed for ADHD, Adderall, Ritalin. Kids take these medications to get through school. Adults take these to manage attention disorders. All of them will show up as amphetamines on a drug test. Sleep medications like Ambien, antidepressants, muscle relaxers, the list goes on and on. And every single one of them can be used as the basis of a DUI charge. Now, the law technically allows for a defense if the medication was taken as prescribed and you weren't actually impaired. But think about what that means in practice. You have to prove that you weren't impaired. You have to prove the medication was prescribed. You have to hire an attorney, go to court, present evidence, bring in expert witnesses. That costs money, lots of money. A DUI defense can easily run you $20,000 to $30,000. And that's if you win. If you lose, you're looking at fines, court costs, increased insurance rates, potential jail time, and a permanent criminal record. All because you were taking medication your doctor prescribed. And the most insidious part is the state doesn't care if you eventually beat the charge. They've already got their money. The arrest generates revenue. The bond generates revenue. The court fees generate revenue. Even if the case is dismissed, even if you're found not guilty, the state and local municipality have already profited from your arrest. You, on the other hand, are out of tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. You've probably lost your job. You got an arrest on your record that will follow you forever, even if the charge was dismissed. You've had your life turned upside down for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Let me give you a specific scenario that Pokerface 6773 pointed out, and I've been thinking about constantly now. A mother is driving her kids home from soccer practice. She takes prescribed Lexapro for depression. She took her Lexapro that morning, like she does every day. She took an Ativan earlier in the afternoon because she had a stressful work meeting. She's not impaired. She's functioning normally. She's been on these medications for years and knows exactly how they affect her. She's driving safely. She gets pulled over for rolling through a stop sign. The officer smells nothing on her breath because she hasn't been drinking. But he decides to pursue a DUI investigation anyway. Maybe she seems nervous, maybe she fumbles for a license, maybe the officer just has a damn quota to meet. He asked her to perform field sobriety tests. She agrees because she hasn't done anything wrong. But field sobriety tests are subjective. The officer can claim she failed even if she performed perfectly. And now he's got probable cause to request a blood test. She refuses because she's scared and doesn't understand what's happening. Under the new law, they get a warrant and forcibly extract her blood. The test comes back positive for Lexapro and Ativan. She's arrested for DUI. Her kids watch their mother get put in handcuffs and taken to jail. She posts bail, hires an attorney. She brings in her prescription records proving the medications were legally prescribed. She brings in expert testimony that the levels in her blood were consistent with prescribed dosing and wouldn't cause any impairment. She eventually beats the charge. But she's spent $25,000 on legal fees. She lost her job because she had to miss work for court dates. And because her employer didn't want someone with a DUI arrest on staff, she's been unemployed for months because no one will hire her with that arrest on her background check. Her family is in financial ruin. Her mental health has deteriorated from the stress. And the state, they made money off the arrest, the bail, the court fees. The municipality made money. The jail made money from housing her. The lab made money for testing her blood. Everyone profited except the innocent woman who did nothing wrong except take her prescribed medication and drive her kids to soccer practice. That's not a hypothetical. That's happening right now to people across Tennessee. And it's going to keep happening because that's exactly what this law is designed to do. This isn't about public safety. If it was about public safety, there would be clear standards for what constitutes as actual impairment versus simply having a prescribed medication in your system. There would be protections for people who are legally medicated but not impaired. But those protections don't exist because the goal isn't safety. The goal is revenue generation. The goal is creating as many arrestable offenses as possible so the state and municipalities can keep the money flowing. And prescription medications are the perfect tool for that because unlike alcohol, where there's a clear legal limit, and you can test accurately at roadside with a breathalyzer. Drugs require blood tests that have to be sent to labs that charge fees that get passed on to the defendant. And unlike alcohol, where most people know not to drive if they've been drinking, prescription medications create confusion. People think they're doing the right thing by taking their prescribed medication. They think that they're safe because a doctor approved it. They have no idea that doing exactly what their doctor told them to do can result in a DUI arrest. That ignorance is profitable. Every person who gets arrested because they didn't know their legal prescription could result in a DUI charge is another source of revenue. Another person who has to pay bail, hire an attorney, pay court costs, pay lab fees, and when you factor in all the costs, increased insurance rates, interlock device fees, DUI classes, probation fees, a single DUI arrest can generate tens of thousands of dollars in revenue for various state and local entities. Multiply that by thousands of arrests per year, and you're looking at a massive amount of revenue stream, all built on the backs of ordinary people who are just trying to manage their anxiety, their depression, their chronic pain, their ADHD. This is institutionalized theft. It's using the criminal justice system to extract money from citizens who haven't actually done anything wrong. It's punishment without crime. It's guilty until proven innocent. And even if you prove yourself innocent, you're still destroyed financially. And the people who passed the law knew exactly what they were doing. They knew prescription medications would show up on the tests. They knew that people wouldn't understand the implications, and they knew it would generate revenue. That's why they passed it. Now, let's talk about the infrastructure that's being built to implement this law. Because when you look at the municipality, what the municipalities are doing to prepare for forced blood draws, it becomes crystal clear that this is about money and not safety. Tennessee counties are building dedicated wings in their jails specifically for blood draws. They're hiring nurses and phlebotomists whose sole job is to extract blood from people who are under arrest. They're equipping these facilities with medical supplies, the refrigeration, the chain of custody protocols needed to process blood samples. Think about the investment that requires. Building out medical facilities in jails, hiring medical staff, training officers on the new procedures, purchasing equipment, setting up contracts with labs to process the samples. That's not a small expense. Counties are spending significant money to create this infrastructure. Why would they do that unless they expected a return on the investment? Because they do expect a return. They're building an infrastructure because they know it's going to generate revenue that far exceeds the initial cost. Every blood draw generates fees. Every arrest generates bail. Every conviction generates fines and court costs and probation fees. But here's where it gets really egregious. The Mobile blood draw units. Some Tennessee departments are literally creating vans equipped to perform blood draws on the side of the road. Mobile phlebotomy units that can be dispatched to traffic stops so officers don't even have to transport suspects to a medical facility or a jail. Now, I want you to stop and think about that. Why would you need a mobile blood draw capability unless you're planning to do a lot of blood draws? Why the hell would you invest in vehicles, equipment, and mobile medical staff unless you were expecting to use them constantly? The answer is obvious. They're planning to use them constantly. They're building infrastructure for mass blood testing because that's the business model. Pull people over, find any justification to suspect impairment, get a warrant, draw the blood, make the arrest, and then you've got dedicated facilities in jails and mobile units on the road. What's to stop them from just doing this shit to everybody that they pull over? Nothing. That's the answer. There's nothing to stop them. Oh, they'll say they need probable cause. They'll say they need reasonable suspicion of impairment. But those standards are incredibly subjective. An officer can claim you seem nervous, that your eyes looked glassy, that you fumbled for your license, that you didn't perform field sobriety tests perfectly. Any of those things could be used to establish probable cause. And once they've got probable cause, they can get a warrant. And once they've got a warrant, they can use force to take your blood. And once they've got your blood, they test it for everything. And if anything shows up, prescription medications, over-the-counter sleep aids, CBD products, anything, they can use it to charge you. The infrastructure they're building isn't designed to catch dangerous, impaired drivers. It's designed to maximize the number of people they can test, arrest, and process through the system. Because every person that's processed is a money generator. Let me break down the revenue stream for you so you understand how extremely profitable this is. We'll start with the arrest itself. Bond is typically set at several $1,000s for a DUI. Bail bondsmen charge 10% of that. So right away, somebody's making money off of that. Then you got the impound fee for your vehicle. If you're arrested, your car gets towed and impounded. That's several $100s right there. That's going to whatever towing company has the contract with the police department. Court costs and fees can run several $1,000s, even if you're found not guilty. Those fees go to the state and local municipality. If you're convicted, fines can be thousands of dollars. Those go to the state and local government. Probation fees, if you're sentenced to probation, those go to the probation department, which is often privatized company that profits from supervision. Mandatory DUI classes, those cost hundreds of dollars to go to whatever organization is approved to teach them. Ignition interlock devices, if required, those cost hundreds to install. And then you got to maintain a monthly fee. It's like Netflix for something that you didn't do wrong. And that money goes to private companies that manufacture and monitor the devices. Increased insurance rates. Your insurance company isn't a government entity, but the state benefits from higher insurance costs through premium taxes. License reinstatement fees when you're finally allowed to drive again. That 18 months that we were talking about. And none of this includes any legal fees that you're paying to an attorney to defend you. That's on top of all of the other costs. Add it all up, because I don't want to do any more math. A single DUI arrest generates something like $20,000 to $40,000 in various fees, fines, and costs spread across multiple entities. The state gets a cut, the county gets a cut, the city gets a cut, private companies with the government contracts, they get a cut. Everybody's making money except for the person who got arrested. That person is financially destroyed. Now, multiply that by the number of arrests Tennessee is projected to make under this new law. Thousands per year. Tens of thousands over the life of the law. You're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue generation. All from a law that allows police to forcibly extract blood from people who might just have prescription medication in their system. And the people who passed this law, Senator John Rose, Representative Ron Gant, Senator Kerry Roberts, they knew this. They knew what kind of revenue this would generate. They knew municipalities would build infrastructure to maximize arrests. They knew innocent people would get caught up in this system. They passed it anyway because the money was too good to pass up. This is legalized plunder. It's using the criminal justice system as a revenue generation tool. It's treating citizens as cash cows to be milked through a system designed to maximize arrests rather than maximize public safety. If this was really about getting dangerous drivers off the road, the law would include protections for people prescribed on prescribed medications. If it would require actual evidence of impairment, not just the presence of a substance in the blood. It would have clear standards that distinguish between being medicated and being impaired. But those protections don't exist because they would reduce the number of arrests. They would reduce the revenue. They would make the whole system less profitable. And profit is the point. That's what infrastructure tells us. That's what the mobile blood draw vans tell us. That's what the dedicated jail wing tells us. This isn't about safety, it's about money. And ordinary citizens are paying the price. Let's talk about the people responsible for this law. The politicians who voted for it, who sponsored it, who pushed it through the Tennessee General Assembly, knowing full well what it would do to ordinary citizens. 3 names you need to know: U.S. Representative John Rose, State Representative Ron Grant, and Senator Kerry Roberts. John Rose is a Republican representing Tennessee's 6th congressional district. He sponsored Senate Bill 457, which reduced the BAC threshold for aggravated DUI offenses from 0.2 to 0.15%. His offices are in Washington, D.C. at 2238 Rayburn House Office Building. And he has district offices in Cookeville and Gallatin. Ron Gant, also known as Bruce Gant, is a Republican member of the Tennessee House of Representatives for District 94. He introduced House Bill 190 with similar provisions to Rose's bill. His Nashville office is in the Cordell Hall building, and his district office is in Rossville. Kerry Roberts is a Republican state senator. He sponsored Senate Bill 1299, which mandates more frequent inspections of ignition interlock devices, another revenue generator disguised as a safety measure. His Nashville office is also in the Cordell Hall building, with a district office in Springfield. Notice something? They're all Republicans. The party that's supposed to stand for limited government, individual liberty, and protection from government overreach. The party that claims to oppose exactly this kind of intrusive state power. And yet, here they are, sponsoring and passing legislation that authorizes forced medical procedures, that creates massive revenue streams for the government, that destroys the lives of ordinary citizens who haven't done anything wrong. This is why people are losing faith in the political establishment. This is why voters are fed up with the politicians who say one thing and do another. These men ran on conservative principles and then passed one of the most government-expansive, liberty-crushing laws in recent Tennessee history. They sold you out. They sold out their constituents. They sold out the principles they claim to believe in. All for what? Revenue for the state? Pressure from law enforcement lobbies? Re-election support from private companies that profit from DUI enforcement? Whatever the reason, they chose to prioritize something other than your rights and your freedom. And they need to be held accountable. Here's their contact information. I want you to write it down. I want you to use it. John Rose, Washington, D.C. office, 2238 Rayburn House Office Building, Washington, D.C., 20515. The phone number for that office is area code 202-225-4231. Cookeville District Office, 321 East Spring Street, Suite 306, Cookeville, Tennessee, 38501. Phone number is area code 931-854-9430. The Gallatin District Office is 355 North Belvedere Drive, Suite 308, Gallatin, Tennessee, 37066. The phone number for that office is area code 615-206-8204. Ron Gant. His Nashville Capitol office is located at 425 Rep. John Lewis Way North, Suite 618, Cordell Hall Building, Nashville, Tennessee, 37243. Phone number 615-741-6890. District Office P.O. Box 491, Rossville, Tennessee, 38066. Carrie Roberts, Nashville office, 425 Rep. John Lewis Way North, Suite 746. Cordell Hall Building, Nashville, Tennessee, 37243. Phone number 615-741-4499. District office is Post Office Box 200, Springfield, Tennessee, 37172-0200. Call them, write them, show up at their offices. Tell them you will be changing your vote, even if it means voting for a radical left lunatic, because this law is not okay. And I mean that. I understand the hesitation to vote for a goddamn Democrat. I get it. The left's policies are destructive. Their ideology is dangerous. I've spent countless episodes laying out exactly why progressive policies destroy everything they touch. But this law is a violation of the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizure. It's a violation of the 14th Amendment guarantee of due process and bodily integrity. It's an actual violation of bodily autonomy in a way that's far more clear-cut than most of what the left complains about. And if the only way to get Republicans' attention, if the only way to make them understand that this is unacceptable is to threaten their seats, then that's what we have to do. These politicians need to understand that there are consequences for betraying their constituents. There are consequences for passing laws that destroy innocent people's lives. There's consequences for prioritizing revenue over rights. And the consequence is losing their jobs. This could be the issue that brings both sides together. Tennesseans on both sides of the aisle should be furious about this. The left should be outraged about bodily autonomy violations and government overreach. The right should be outraged about the same things from a different philosophical framework. This isn't a partisan issue. This is a human rights issue. This is a constitutional issue. This is a matter of whether we're going to allow our government to forcibly extract blood from citizens based on subjective standards that can be applied to anyone. Conservative, liberal, independent, none of that matters when you're the one that's getting held down while a nurse jams a needle in your arm. None of that matters when you're the one losing your job and your savings, defending against a DUI charge for taking your prescribed medication. This affects everyone. And we need to act like it. Organize. Protest peacefully. Make noise. Make it impossible for these politicians to ignore. Show up at town halls. Show up at their offices. Demand that they amend this law. Demand that they add protections for people on prescribed medications. Demand that they remove the forced blood draw provisions and make it clear that if they don't, if they refuse to fix what they've broken, they won't be reelected. primary them, vote them out, replace them with people who actually believe in limited government and individual liberty. Shit, I'll run. The only way this changes is if we force them to change it. They're not going to do it voluntarily. The revenue is too good. The lobbyists supporting this law are too powerful. The infrastructure is already built, and they want a return on investment. We have to make the political cost of keeping this law higher than the financial benefit of enforcing it. We have to make it toxic to support. We have to make it a career-ending position. And that starts with you. Making calls, writing letters, showing up, voting, making it clear that this is unacceptable and it's not going to be tolerated. Nothing is going to change unless we do something about it. The politicians who passed this law are counting on you being too busy, too apathetic, too divided to organize effective opposition. Prove them wrong. I want to talk about where this goes if we don't stop it now. Because the infrastructure being built for DUI enforcement isn't going to stay limited to DUI enforcement. The precedent being set isn't going to stay limited to drunk driving investigations. Once you've established that the government can forcibly extract blood from citizens based on a warrant, once you've built dedicated facilities and mobile units to do it, once you've normalized the practice and overcome the initial resistance, the expansion to other uses becomes inevitable. Let me walk you through how this happens, because we've seen this pattern before with every single expansion of government power. Right now, it's DUIs. The justification is public safety. We're just trying to keep dangerous drivers off the road. Anyone who opposes it wants drunk drivers killing people. That's the emotional argument that gets people to accept the initial intrusion. But once the infrastructure is built, once the procedures are established, once the legal framework exists, other uses start getting proposed. First, it'll be other traffic offenses, reckless driving, street racing, hit and runs. If we can forcibly extract blood for DUI, why not for other driving-related crimes? The infrastructure's already there. The procedures are already in place. It's just extending it to similar situations. Then it'll be violent crimes. Someone's accused of assault. Blood evidence might show they were on drugs or alcohol, which could be relevant to the case. The suspect refuses to give blood voluntarily. Well, we've already established that warrants allow forced blood draws. Let's just apply that here. Then it'll be property crimes. Someone's accused of burglary. Blood at the scene needs to be matched to a suspect. DNA evidence could solve the case. The suspect refuses, get a warrant. Force the blood draw. We're solving crimes here. We're protecting property. What's the problem? Then it'll be any crime where biological evidence might be relevant, which is basically any crime. If the government thinks your blood or DNA might help their investigation, they'll get a warrant and they're going to take it. And we won't even notice the slope because each step seems reasonable in isolation. Each expansion addresses a real problem. Each use helps solve actual crimes, but taken together, what you've created is a system where the government can forcibly extract biological evidence from anyone at any time for any reason they can convince a judge is legitimate. Your body becomes a evidence repository that the government has access to whenever they want it. Your bodily autonomy becomes conditional on whether the state has a warrant. Your right to refuse medical procedures evaporates the moment law enforcement decides that they need something from you. And here's the truly terrifying part. The infrastructure Tennessee is building makes this expansion easier. Those dedicated jail wings aren't just for DUI suspects. Those mobile blood draw units can be used for any investigation. Those medical professionals under contract to extract blood don't care what crime is being investigated. They're just following the warrant. So when the expansion comes, and it will come if we don't stop this now, the hard work is already done. The facilities exist, the procedures exist, the legal precedent exists. All that's needed is expanding the list of crimes where forced blood draws are authorized, and municipalities will support the expansion because it generates more revenue, more arrests, more processing fees, more lab fees, more everything that makes money. Private companies will support it because their contracts become more valuable. More blood draws means more business for labs, for equipment manufacturers, for the companies that build and maintain the infrastructure. Politicians will support it because they can claim they're being tough on crime. They're solving cases. They're using modern forensic techniques to bring criminals to justice. Who could oppose that except criminals and their sympathizers? The only people who lose are ordinary citizens who get caught up in the system. But our concerns don't generate campaign contributions. Our opposition doesn't influence re-election chances. Our ruined lives don't affect anyone's bottom line. So the expansion happens gradually, incrementally. Each step is justified by the one before it. Until one day you wake up in a country where the government can forcibly extract biological evidence from anyone for any investigation, and nobody even questions it anymore because it's been normalized. This is how liberty dies. Not through dramatic constitutional crisis, not through open tyranny, but through incremental expansions of power that each seem reasonable until you step back and see what's been built. And Tennessee's DUI law is one of those incremental steps, a significant one. One that crosses lines we shouldn't be crossing. One that sets precedents we'll regret setting. But it's not too late. We can still stop this. We can still push back. We can still demand that this law be amended or repealed before it becomes the foundation for something far worse. But we have to act now, before the infrastructure is fully built, before the procedures are fully normalized, before the revenue becomes so significant that municipalities won't give it up, before the precedent is so well established that courts won't question it. We have a narrow window to fight this. And if we miss it, we let this become entrenched. We'll spend decades trying to claw back rights we gave up in the name of public safety and crime fighting. Don't let that happen. Don't let Tennessee become the state that established the precedent for nationwide forced blood extraction. Don't let our generation be the one that normalized government access to your body whenever they claim they need it. Fight now. Fight hard. Fight like your freedom depends on it. Because do you know what? It does. Let me bring this all together with crystal clarity so there's no misunderstandings about what's happening and what needs to happen next. Tennessee's new DUI law is not about public safety. It's a revenue generation scheme that uses the criminal justice system to extract money from ordinary citizens, many whom have done nothing wrong except take their prescribed medications. The infrastructure being built, dedicated jail wings and mobile blood draw units, proves this is designed for mass application, not just catching dangerous drivers. When you invest that kind of money in infrastructure, you're planning to use it extensively. And the lack of protection for people on prescribed medications proves the real intent. If this was about safety, there would be clear standards distinguishing between being medicated and being impaired. Those standards don't exist because confusion is profitable. Every person who doesn't know their prescription can lead to a DUI charge is another potential arrest. It's another source of revenue. The politicians who passed this law, John Rose, Ron Gant, Kerry Roberts, they sold out their constituents. They violated the principles of limited government and bodily autonomy they claim to support. And they need to face consequences at the ballot box. This is an issue that should unite both sides. The left should be outraged about bodily autonomy violations and government overreach. The right should be outraged about the same things from a constitutional perspective. This isn't partisan. I already said this earlier. This is about whether we're going to allow our government to forcibly extract blood from citizens. Here's what you need to do. Contact these politicians. Use the phone numbers and the addresses that I gave you. Call them, write them, show up at their offices. Make it clear this law is unacceptable and you'll vote accordingly. Organize with your community. Talk to your neighbors. Share this information. Make sure that people understand what this law actually does and who it actually targets. Protest peacefully. Show up at town halls. Show up at the state capitol. Make noise. Make it impossible for them to ignore the issue. And vote. Primary these politicians if you have to. Vote them out. If they won't amend this law, get rid of them. Fire them. Replace them with people who actually believe in limited government. We need to act now before more innocent people have their lives destroyed. Before the infrastructure is fully built and the revenue stream is too big to shut down. Before this law becomes so entrenched that changing it becomes impossible. This could be the fight that brings both sides together. This could be the issue where conservatives and liberals find common ground in defending basic rights against government overreach. But only if we act. Only if we make enough noise that the politicians can't ignore us. Only if we make the political cost of this law higher than the financial benefit. Nothing changes unless we the people change it. So let's get to work. Before I close, remember to check out everything we're doing at Truth in the Darkness. Visit titdusa.com for bold political commentary, daily devotionals, investigative true crime, and plain English Bible teaching. We're building a faith-driven media network that refuses to bow to cultural pressure or political correctness. Support the mission by listening, sharing, and checking out our merchandise. Every purchase helps fund independent media that tells the truth. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, verse 8 through 9, it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." That's what we're called to do right now. Speak up for people being destroyed by this unjust law. Defend the rights of ordinary citizens who are being treated as revenue sources rather than human beings. Judge fairly what these politicians have done and hold them accountable. Your voice matters, your vote matters, your actions matter. Use them. I'll see you next time.